Greetings everyone, hey, welcome, namaste, and thank you for joining me. Guys, this is June's Earth predictions, or global predictions, or remote viewing for 2018. So I think we will start off using an overall background energy card with these Morgan Greer tarot cards. So just shuffling for intent with this for the background overall energy for June. For the remote viewing session. Let's see what comes up and what we are going to receive in the way of messages. May was a turbulent month. Not quite through it yet, but we nearly are. Quite some odd things that happened. That one dropped off the bottom, which was kind of an odd thing for me to do. I'll show it, which is a beautiful card, the Ace of Cups and the High Priestess. So those two cards are background energy cards, particularly good positive cards actually, boding peace and love and prosperity, growth, nurturing knowledge, taking things to a higher perspective and from a higher point of wisdom. Also very much about the moon. We see here with the moon really embellished in this card in two places. So there could be something about astrological events or our moon in the month of June, Moon June, and maybe even space-related issues as well. There could also be something about animals. There could be something about birds in particular in June. I think we have seen some more mass bird die-offs in unusual events. I also see water. In particular, pouring from the cup. So there could be rain events, flooding events, and something to do with our bodies of water in June. But basically they are very positive, nurturing cups. So there could be a great amount of love feeling, or the feeling of connectedness, or awareness, or higher energies, or like mass compassion towards something in the month of June. It might be more of these type of events we see when there have been mass shootings in places like America, and that so many of the young community, the young generation, are crying out for changes to be made and for lives to be saved instead of lost. It could be things along those lines as well. So let's shuffle into the Psi cards and see what's coming for June for 2018. Okay. They're really moving freely today. Sometimes they're so stuck. Alright. The Liar, back again, shame. The Voyage, the Mother, the Home, the Body, and Peace. Okay, so if I move this back a little bit, whoops, wrong way. I moved it forward, obviously. I'll move it back a little bit. To me, the Peace card and the Ace of Cups really resonate together, but if you've been following this series of predictive energy cards for global awareness or energy, vibrational collective consciousness that we're following using this deck, that Peace card usually means the complete and utter opposite. But let's start from that first card in the Liar. I think he was here last month for May. Now, I'd traditionally said that the Liar appeared to often mean shaking or earthquakes, but I have to say that May was relatively quiet in terms of quakes. So I'm wondering if the vibration of the cards or the messages that they're giving off are changing a little bit. We can sit with that energy anyhow and see if it actually is activated. And the reason I picked shaking for the Liar card was he's standing on one foot, and he appears to be in the action of moving, side to side, as you would do if there was an earthquake. So I often thought that this would be pertinent of houses moving somehow, like shaking and moving. Maybe it was more relative to perhaps issues maybe on Hawaii Island. It might have been something along those lines where there's been so much activity and shaking and moving, as opposed to quakes. I sometimes did think that the card was also related to or tied into older parts of the earth, and when I say that I mean older civilizations of the earth, such as in areas around Europe or up through in the Middle Eastern areas where humans have been for a longer time than other places, say such as New Zealand. So that it could often infer or reference shaking or issues up and around that part of the globe as well. Geographical issues or geological. However, the liar also does mean hidden agenda and lies. Now, it could be tied up to the meeting that we're waiting on, the USA-North Korea meeting. We've seen it have an issue in May where the date was retracted by President Trump and then reenacted again, and I think they're trying to make the meeting go forward. So there's a possibility still that there may be some toing and froing regards some of these meetings and information. This could also relate to places such as the Middle East, so perhaps there are some of those issues toing and froing and creating trouble and being changed up around the whole Israel, Palestine, Iran and Syria, that type of issue as well. And when we come to the card right next to it, we see the Voyage, and again we're being depicted an older image of the earth, so back in time. That map is particularly old. Now, interestingly enough, we see, so I also think of the Middle Eastern areas and up through that top part of the northern hemisphere around Pakistan, India, up in the Himalayas and through the Middle East and Iran, areas around there as well. Now, this can be political, it can be geographical or geological or physiological or just tumultuous energy within its citizens. I do see this sign here, and I often think it represents the sun shining. And we also see this card here with the sun coming through some windows up here in this part of the building, shining down onto this mandala. So there's reference here twice of the sun, and this can infer something happening with the sun as well. So we're getting messages of space with this reading, with that high priestess up in the background, with her referencing the moon, and now we have a referencing of the sun. So whether or not there are some interesting planetary alignments coming in June, or whether there is something that we are new information that pertains to the sun and or the moon, or we are seeing something unusual occur between the two of them. This could be things such as sun-diving comets, it could be asteroids travelling close by, it could be CMEs, or that which is coronal mass ejections, or it could be X-flares or flares coming towards Earth, or even into other parts of our galactic solar system that affect planets or space weather, and hence wise moving into affecting things here on Earth, such as massive storm cells or surges, and also possible earthquake and volcanic unrest. Coming back to the Voyage, clearly we see the referencing of boats. So is there something to do with boats in the month of June? So ships, one way or another. This could be any reference. It could be something to do with migration of people. It could be something to do with boats being damaged one way in the sea through big storms or something similar. It could be something to do with how products are moved around the world, container shipping, or passengers or cruise boats or anything along those lines as well. It can also reference the sea and the oceans being disturbed one way or another. So we can think of storm cells again, big weather events, also tsunami-like events. Coming to the Mother card, she's come out a lot lately, which is quite unusual. So we think of a couple of different reference points here. And I see we have a couple of very strong female energies in this reading. We have the Mother and we have the High Priestess. So female energies could be around again for the month. That could mean that nurturing, heart-related, compassion type energy, or it could be referring to powerful females on the planet, such as political leaders. I believe New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, is in fact expecting her baby in the month of June. So she will probably become a mother in the month of June. That is one representation, and we also have the home card down here, which does represent issues to do with around my home quite often, New Zealand. So that could be from the political perspective of her new baby being born. We can also be referencing other people such as royalty, which have been in the limelight in the month of May. The English royalty in particular can also reference, as I said, political figures or also famous movie stars and such like. It can also represent, sadly, events where families are, bereft, and there is death and trauma and loss, and especially with mothers and children involved. And unfortunately, the body card can also represent that. The other thing the mother card can represent is Mother Earth, Gaia, our planet that we live on, our home. So this can be, the mother card can come out when we see unrest in Gaia, and we've seen that in the month of May with things such as the Hawaiian earthquake erupting, or the goddess Pele that some people refer to. So there may be more activation and activity on Gaia in the month of June, and it could relate to things like volcanic activity or earthquakes as well. Coming down here to the home card, this can represent literally things in and around New Zealand or my close neighbours such as Australia or some of the Pacific Islands, including places like Vanuatu, Noumea, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, any of those type of areas. It can reference many different agendas such as political or geological, so again quakes or volcanic activity. We did just have a very strange occurrence about 5 days ago on one of our North Island beaches. We have had 11 sperm whales wash up on a beach. Now that is unheard of, and it appears that they may not have died on the beach, may have died out at sea. So this could be a couple of causes, usually for whales when they are dying or distressed, can be due to magnetic interference, or they may have swum through a polluted area of the sea that could have been polluted with volcanic toxins. So there may be a volcanic underground eruption taking place in somewhere like the Kermadec Trench or in and around the offshores of New Zealand, which might be why the whales ended up dead on our shores. Anyhow, it's been a terrible thing to see such beautiful giant creatures all dead. We don't know the cause. So it can be any of those type of things referencing when the home card comes out. It can also reference damage to homes one way or another, because that is a home, so buildings where people live. It also is representing fire there. So possibly fire is involved in the reading one way or another. And I tend to find that doesn't have to be fires in and around New Zealand. It might be fires anywhere on the globe that also reference buildings being lost in fires. And it can also reference things like bushfires as well. The body, pretty hideous card. It often, to me, pictures people who suffer damage to their external part of their body in accidents or incidents because all the skin is missing. So it can be, unfortunately, mass events, mass accidents or mass incidents and trauma-related things. It can also represent new information coming about the body, so cellular information, new ideas or concepts or technology involving our health and things around DNA or stem cell research or cancer information, things along those lines. It can also represent viruses, so a potent new virus surfacing or an outbreak of some sort of virus somewhere in the globe as well. And we come finally to the peace card, and we see that beautiful looking card of this, probably a church-like building with the sun shining in and the mandala at the end. And the peace card often means no peace. It means a lack of peace. So the reference of feeling turbulence around the planet, whether it be via the citizens or via nature. The sun shining on the mandala at the back often references, as we've talked about earlier, unusual sun activity or heightened sun activity. So there we are, everyone. That is the reading for the month of June. I'm not sure what the card on the bottom is. It's the Stranger. Often refers to communist type countries and hidden agenda going on, and not really certain about certain aspects or perspectives, things going on behind closed doors. So perhaps that Stranger is tied into the Liar, because the Liar was the first card and the Stranger is the last card. So it might be a little bit more communication regards this meeting that is meant to happen between America and North Korea. Let's hope it does go ahead. Let's hope there is some love and harmony and peace around the globe, and that we can move forward as an intellectual species, able to move past seeming boundaries that we put on ourselves. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's a bit of a longer reading today because those two cards that fell out at the beginning, I guess they wanted to be heard one way or another. So thanks again. Have a wonderful, safe June wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Leave your comments below the video. I love hearing all your synopsis of what you believe the cards to mean, and also your inference on new paradigms for the cards as well. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Much love. Namaste.